Welcome back to Patriots Inc. Writing the Right. I'm Glenn Pav, your host. Today, our topic is Agenda 21. Raise your hand if you've ever heard of that before. I don't see any hands out there. Are you familiar with it? Well, I want you to copy down this very special website. This is going to be imperative for you to follow through because the information there is exhaustive with 10 years of experience. The website is freedomadvocates.org. That's Freedom Advocates, ADVOCATES.org. Michael Shaw is the man instrumental in this area of having done a plethora of information about this. Freedom Advocates, we're talking about sustainable development. Have you ever heard that buzzword? Well, let me tell you this. Agenda 21 is all about sustainable development, and it has infiltrated every part of politics, every part of private and public venues. The public policy throughout America is implementing this sustainable development, the global political economic program referred to as sustainable development. Most Americans do not know. Most Americans do not understand the integrated policy and philosophy of this sustainable development. Sustainable development is the action plan being used across America and around the world to implement the United Nations Agenda 21 program. Although the movement's roots are much older, the United Nations at its 1992 Earth Summit held in Rio de Janeiro publicly launched the global movement. This movement is called Agenda 21. The Secretary General of that Earth Summit conference, Maurice Strong, addressed the gathering. And here's what he said. Current lifestyles and consumption patterns of the affluent middle class involving high meat intake, use of fossil fuels, appliances, home and work air conditioning, and suburban housing are not sustainable. That's right. That's what he said. 178 nations were signatories to the 288-page Agenda 21. President George H.W. Bush signed on behalf of the United States this document. Since Agenda 21 was soft law and not a treaty, Congress had no role to perform, so it was bypassing Congress. Instead, the cabinet agencies of the executive branch of government were charged with implementing this global to local program. In 93, President Bill Clinton established by executive order the President's Council on Sustainable Development. And since Clinton's order, every cabinet agency has undertaken its role in advancing Agenda 21, Sustainable Development Policy in the U.S. Let me give you a quick 1, 2, 3 summary of what it seeks to do. Think about the words, by the way, sustainable development. That means, and it assumes there is unsustainable development. Here is what sustainable development seeks. Number one, the step-by-step abolition of private property, primarily through the implementation of the Wildlands Project and smart growth. We'll go into that in more detail in our program. Secondly, the education of youth to prepare them for global citizenship, stripping them of their sovereign U.S. citizenship. And number three, control and ultimate reduction of human population up to 85%. And we'll go into details in this week and next week about that as well. The removal of your private property, the brainwashing of our youth to a global economy and citizenship, and the control and reduction of human population, because humans and land and biological insects and birds and creeping things are all, according to them, on an equal plane and deserve the same rights as humans have. Human rights are not above animal rights and so forth. So, sustainable developers rally around the concepts within 3 E's. The 3 E's are equity, economy, and environment. Concerning equity, it means to restructure human nature and to enforce that restructure by shifting our system of justice from one that adheres to the principles of equal justice and unalienable rights to one that implements the concept of social justice. Now, you've heard that word thrown around this past year. That's what equity means, to restructure human nature and to enforce the restructuring by shifting our system of justice to social justice. The second E is economy. It means shifting from free enterprise to public-private partnerships, or PPP. It also means establishment of a global economy where goods freely cross national borders in order to redistribute financial, national, natural, human resources in order to equalize the income distribution within and between nations. The redistribution of wealth. And the third E is environment. We've had that. We've talked about it. Think green. You've heard those terms before. It means giving plants and animals and even inanimate objects status equal to or even greater than the rights of human beings. Now, when I read in the scripture that man was to be the overseer of the earth and to rule over the earth, it's totally diametrically opposed to this biblical mandate that everything is equal. And that's why we got to be careful where we walk or where we dig as a farmer, because it may crush a endangered species, therefore you can't even plant crops there. These are the kinds of ludicrous things that are happening. Out in California, remember, they had to shut off the water supply and they couldn't grow their crops because it would endanger a small minnow-sized fish. When you say, you got to be kidding. They're not kidding. They're blasting out, just like a shotgun sprays out the pellets all over so that some of them might hit the target. That's exactly what sustainable development is all about. It's going through every aspect: the farming community, the city community, the suburban communities, the political community, the religious community, and we'll talk more about that. Let's talk first of all of how to date the sustainable policy can be traced to many current issues. And when I tell you these issues, you'll say, yes, I've heard about that. Yes, I've heard about that. Well, it's because it's local, it's municipal, it's right here. It's controlling, and that's the goal. So that once they control, then a global economy and a global control will be much easier to be swept into play. They call this, in the cities, smart growth development. And the standards in every metropolitan area within the United States include a concentration of high-rise living, mixed-use buildings, walkable communities, with mass transit such as light rail and bicycle trails. We talked about light rail in the last week. We talked about the issues of what they're trying to ram through, something so impractical, uneconomical, and a losing proposition in every way possible. But why are they trying to do this? It's for a global perspective. It's for a global control. And then the implementation of the Wildlands Project. That includes the destruction of these things. Hold your seats. The destruction of dams, the closure of roads, the prohibition of resource extraction, including timber and oil, and the reintroduction of wild animals, management of forests to allow catastrophic fire, centralized control over water, and other mechanisms designed to force people into smart growth communities. These smart growth communities and wildland projects are designed to ultimately abolish private property. Okay? So the smart growth community is the inner city. And they're going to surround it with a no-growth policy and a preservation of the wildlands in the projects. It also includes an educational system operated from Washington that mandates child assessment in lieu of child testing. It's designed to lead children toward accepting global citizenship. It also includes the development of technology and the passage of law that allows or mandates the monitoring of individual activity. An example is the use of biometrics. And then it's the use of funny money systems, where all money is created out of thin air by globalist bankers. Money's issued to government, to business, to individuals as debt owing back to the globalist bankers. Under sustainable development, the recognition of the unalienable rights to one's life, liberty, and property, my friend, is lost. This war on freedom is a global to local one. And I'm telling you this from the global side of things because locally it's already infiltrated our municipalities. America's defense relies on a local response designed to generate national impact. We need to become vocal local.